Welcome back to Reviews and Rankings with Robbie Sobel. And today, we talk about the 2021 film, Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead is a 2021 film directed by Zack Snyder and stars Dave Bautista, Ella Purnell, Tig Notaro, and Hiroki Sanada. The story begins as we follow a U.S. military convoy transporting a mysterious payload from Area 51. The convoy collides with another vehicle, causing a zombie to escape and infect those around it. The zombies make their way to Las Vegas, infecting many others along the way that only adds to their growing numbers. Attempts by the military to stop the zombies fail, causing the city to be put under lockdown. During the chaos, a former hired gun and soldier, Scott Ward, played by Dave Bautista, is contacted by casino owner Bly Tanaka, played by Sanada, who offers him a job to steal $200 million from his casino vault before the military levels the city with a nuclear missile. Ward then gathers a team to complete the heist, all while battling hordes of the undead in the process. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and today is an incredibly special day, not just for the channel, but for myself personally. If you are fans of the channel previously, it's not a surprise that I absolutely love zombie films. It's my favorite subgenre of horror, and I've talked about George Romero being my all-time favorite filmmaker, who of course created the modern zombie film with Night of the Living Dead back in 1968. But not only am I a fan of zombie films, today is a special day because it is the first time ever that I got to watch a zombie movie with my son, not so little Robbie.
Yep. Yeah, it was fantastic. I'm actually really excited to do this. So,
you know what? Zack Snyder, of course, now for like newer film fans, they'll know him as being the guy who directed Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and of course the Snyder cut of Justice League that was released just a couple of months ago to rave reviews. I absolutely love it. 5 out of 5. Check that out if you're into superhero movies. But he really kind of cut his teeth and got his name out there back in 2004. He directed the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Now, Dawn of the Dead is my favorite zombie film of all time. After Jaws, it's my favorite horror movie of all time. But I'll tell you, when Zack Snyder came out with the remake, at first I was a little apprehensive. You know, no one wants to see their favorite film kind of remade, and then, you know, the focus kind of goes on that remake and people forget about your movie and you get a little like salty about it or whatever.
Yeah, a little disturbed.
Yeah, but you know what? Zack Snyder took the basic concept of people hunkering down in the mall, fighting off zombies, and then that was it. Everything else in that movie that he did was his own thing. He sped up the zombies so they weren't just the traditional slower paced zombies. So Zack Snyder's remake is more of an action horror movie. It's just kind of fun, and there's nothing really else beneath the surface there, but that's all right. It's just it's a fun time. So I was thinking that that's how Army of the Dead would be.
Okay.
Which brings us to where we are today. Army of the Dead was announced a little over a year ago. It's not a continuation or a sequel at all to his Dawn of the Dead remake. It's kind of has its own continuity, and my expectations were high, but this film blew me away. This is probably the best zombie film that I've seen in maybe 15 or 20 years.
Wow.
It's really well done. Right now, I mean, it has all the action stuff in it, but it's
100%.
it's got scary moments. We're not going to give our spoilers just yet. I will put an announcement up when the spoilers are going to come. But Robbie, what do you have to say about the movie? What are some of your favorite parts?
Well, let me just point this out. This one thing, which I think we'll talk more about later. The soundtrack for this movie was fantastic.
It really was.
Absolutely mind-blowing how well it fit into the scenes that they were put into. Also, watching this film, it was kind of like watching an even more dark version of a DC movie. The action was just incredible. It was great. I loved it.
It was, yeah, I mean, and you had made a mention, too, that at certain points it felt like kind of like the future war scenes in the Terminator movies.
Yeah, I did kind of compare it to that a little bit.
Yeah, but instead of robots, and Terminators, we got zombies.
Yeah.
It really had that feel. The film starts out with a military convoy shipping a mysterious package, a payload, over, and no one really knows what it is. And unfortunately, there is a car crash. I'm not really giving any spoilers away. This scene was already shown on YouTube and in the trailer. Unfortunately, what was in that payload was a zombie, and not just a regular slow-moving zombie. This was a alpha zombie, and that brings me to a very important part of my positives. Typically, in zombie films, you get one of two options. You get the traditional, slower-paced zombies, which I usually prefer, which really kind of made famous in those George Romero films, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and so on. Or you get kind of fast-paced zombies that we've seen in the Dawn of the Dead remake or movies like 28 Days Later, and a lot more modern ones. This film presents both.
Yes.
Yeah, so you get...
two options, and it was interesting as well because it's not like they had their own section. They were all a thing. Like, at the same time,
yeah,
they were together.
It's kind of like a hierarchy, like in a jungle.
Yeah, like
right?
I almost compared it to like they were growing their own like civilization. They were close enough family. It was great.
Absolutely. So you have these slower moving zombies, which are really traditional. But then you have what they refer to as the alpha zombies. These are faster, they're stronger, they're smarter, and they're able to communicate. Not with words, but just with sounds, screaming sounds and screeching sounds. If one of the alphas dies, you can hear...
They give off their death screech is
yes.
what they called it in there. So.
Yeah. So basically, when this zombie, this super alpha zombie, is released from this payload container, it infects some of those around them. They make their way to Las Vegas, and along the way, they infect, and their army continuously grows. It grows to the point that the military has to come into Las Vegas, quarantine the area, and try to fight them off. Unfortunately, this army of the dead grows to the point where the military has to evacuate, and the only way to eradicate this problem of growing zombies and then the undead is to literally nuke the town.
Nuke Las Vegas.
So now that we have that situated, we find out that Scott Ward, a former mercenary who had won the Medal of Honor, or Medal of Freedom, don't remember. I think it was Medal of Honor, whatever it was, for saving the Secretary of State, I believe it was, from the zombie invasion. He gets an offer from a casino owner that offers him $50 million to go into this quarantine zone in Vegas and break into one of the vaults of this man's casino and to obtain $200 million before the city is blown to smithereens by the U.S. military. Scott Ward is played by Dave Bautista. Dave Bautista, most of us know, wrestling fans know, as a WWE legend, Hall of Famer, champion, all this stuff for, almost 15 years. He's very popular, and he's kind of gone the route after wrestling of acting. We've seen many other wrestlers do this. Of course, The Rock is kind of the most famous in the modern era. John Cena is now getting into that as well, and now Batista following. And I think, Batista did a really good job. This is the first time he's had probably this much focus on him in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, very centered, but, it wasn't like, yes, he was made as the main character.
Yeah.
But everyone had a vital role,
yeah.
of the main group. It was
it was an ensemble cast, and he was like the main of the ensemble, though.
like the leader,
Yeah. So we find out that in order for him to get $50 million and to divvy it up between whoever he decides to recruit and bring with him to head into the quarantine zone, fight off the zombies, and get the money. Now, in addition to that, he brings along with him his daughter, and that causes a whole other subplot that we'll kind of delve into a little bit later in the spoilers. But I want to talk about what a lot of people focus on when it comes to zombies. It's the makeup of the zombies and the special effects. Now, we're not going to give away too much details about certain kills, but were you impressed with the makeup on the zombies and the kills?
Oh my goodness, it was crazy. Absolutely. I mean, for me, I can't really compare it to other zombie movies, but I would say this is top notch. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was really well done. And not just, I'll kind of add this on there. So like not just the makeup on the zombies themselves and the special effects and the kills, but just the overall cinematography and the filming. It really fit the pacing of this movie, and it fit the beats well. And on top of that, the set pieces. Of course, this movie takes place in Las Vegas, and this really looks like what Las Vegas would appear if it was ready to be torn apart by zombies and whatnot. They do throw a lot of like nods out there to famous Las Vegas landmarks. You have like the replica Statue of Liberty. We have a zombie tiger, and right away I think that's the tiger from Siegfried and Roy. And literally minutes later, one of the characters explains that is the tiger from Siegfried and Roy. We get a cameo by a fake Elvis that's popular with in Las Vegas. So there's a lot going on. Of course, scenes in casinos and whatnot. When gambling, of course, is a big staple of Vegas as well. So this movie really fit all the beats. It was nearly 2.5 hours long, but it didn't feel that long, did it?
Oh, no way, yeah. We did end up pausing it a couple times, but the first time we saw that we had been watching for over an hour, and both of us were like kind of confused, like how that had already passed. Like
like we were curious to see like what's the timestamp, so we kind of just paused it to see, and I couldn't believe it was that far into the movie because it was really just paced well.
Yeah.
You get a good opening scene, but the opening credits.
Oh, that was probably, of all the movies I've seen, one of the best introductions in like the opening credits that I've ever seen. Yeah,
it furthers the plot along, and it does it in an entertaining way with, like you had mentioned earlier, the music used.
Yes, it was. Oh man, it was really good.
There's so much more that we can talk about as far as like non-spoiler wise, but we're gonna save that. But overall, I was really impressed by everything in this movie. Like we said, it was 2.5 hours. It didn't feel like it, and a lot of horror films these days are longer, 2.5 hours, sometimes a little longer, but they feel like they're that long.
Yeah,
they're a slog to get through, and a lot of these movies are kind of slow burn films. And if you're not 100% invested in the story and hooked, it feels like you're stuck in school waiting for the day to be over, and the clock just won't move. This movie, nope. This movie flew by from the opening scene to the end credits and everything in between. Army of the Dead hit the nail on the head, in my opinion. One of the best zombie films that I've seen in quite a while. But I think if we're going to kind of delve a little bit deeper, I think we should give a spoiler warning right here. We'll put it up there in big letters so no one can yell and scream in the comments that we didn't warn you. So non-spoilers are over. It's spoiler time.
Alrighty.
Okay, so one of the big spoilers here in this movie is that once Bautista and his camp move into the quarantine zone, it's really comparable to people like invading a country. You see yourself as the good guy, but these zombies who have made this quarantine zone their home, they just see it as them defending their own turf. They don't know why these people are here. Why are you going to come into my home, kill people in my home, just because you want, in this case, money from a safe? Like, so these zombies are definitely pushing back. They're led by two main alpha zombies. One is called the Bride, and the other is her husband named Zeus. Now, in the camp of Bautista's crew, one is essentially a traitor.
Yes.
He's only looking out for his own interest in this, and you can kind of see that coming, but you don't know how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where he captures the Bride and decapitates her.
Yeah. And
that's a really good looking kill.
Oh my goodness.
It's a brutal kill, and her head is actually still alive.
Yeah.
Which plays for important in the later scene.
Yeah.
And that's when you just know he's gonna get it.
Oh yeah.
And he has one of the best kills in the entire movie. Robbie, tell him about how he bites the dust.
So as he's escaping with this head, which we'll probably talk about why he has this still in a little while, but he's trying to escape out the front. Now, all the zombies, including Zeus, have gone into the building to chase after the rest of them. The only zombie that's left in the outside the building is the tiger. And as he's running, he does not expect this. He puts down the bag and he opens the bag, and the head's not in there. It's been traded out and substituted for something else. And that's when the tiger comes up behind him. Now the tiger gives him this brutal beat down. He's like biting all over him, grabbing by the legs and throwing him all over the place. But the kill, he stands over him, he bites down on his head and rips his entire face off. And that sounds really brutal saying that.
It was. Rips his head, his face off his head and parts of his brain.
Yeah, it was something. That's for sure.
It was crazy, and it looked so well done. When it comes to a lot of these newer films, especially like with horror films, it's very tricky with CGI because if they don't do it correctly,
it looks very cheesy.
It looks cheesy and it looks really fake. So you have to kind of find a way to blend in practical effects with CGI. And, you know, I usually don't mind when I see big groups of zombies and using CGI that way to kind of multiply it makes sense.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the actual kills themselves. And I was really impressed throughout this entire movie where there was a few instances during it where I was able to go, that looks CGI. That was but those were just kind of quick. The main kills were all done so well, and it seemed like they found a way to blend practical effects with CGI kills, and they should be applauded for that. And I know we were watching it, and when that went down, it was one of those like, ugh!
We looked at each other with that face. We're just
brutal, rough stuff.
Pure astonishment. It was
there's also a couple of kills here that really took us by surprise. There's a scene where Bautista's character, Scott Ward, is ready to head out into this madness to look for his daughter. And he's stopped by one of the other members of his crew, and it's a woman that he had previously been with and they had feelings for. And she said, listen, I'm staying with you. I want to be with you. I'm not going to let you do this alone. So he goes, thank you. They open up the doors of the elevator. There's a zombie there, and then
he puts his hands on her head and snaps her neck. It just
does a 180.
Yeah, 180 completely.
And you
right
see,
in front of him.
Yeah, you actually see the good neck twist. It was crazy. It was so well done.
Bone pops out the shoulder.
Yep.
Yeah.
It really
it was
isn't
so
it?
Quick.
Yeah, and we just were like.
Jaw dropped.
Yeah, both of us, our jaw completely dropped, and we kind of like both did like this slow turn. We were like,
it was so unexpected.
It was wild, and there was a lot of moments in this film where I didn't know where they were gonna go. I think in the beginning of the movie when he's kind of gathering his crew, Robbie and I are going, okay,
predicting.
Yeah. He's gonna die. She's gonna die. He's gonna live. She's gonna live. And we pretty much got like all of it wrong. Like,
yeah.
I couldn't believe.
Unless we said they died, you know.
Yeah, I think we only guessed like one person that was right to live. We'll leave that as a total a non-spoiler on that. But so this movie, while you could predict some of the beats, some of the big twists and turns, at least for myself and for little Robbie, like it caught us by surprise. And when a film's gonna catch you by surprise and you're already on that emotional roller coaster, that's really a positive thing, and it just makes you even more invested in it.
Oh yeah.
And you know, that's another thing too I wanted to bring up. Like a movie like Dawn of the Dead, the remake, that was a fun action horror movie, and it had a big cast, but you never really felt too emotionally invested in any of the characters, and that was kind of one of the down points that I had of it, where I kind of just had fun with it, but I didn't really care too much about what was going on, with maybe the exception of one or two possibly. In this movie, I was emotionally invested not only in our main crew, but actually Zeus and the bride.
Yeah,
when Zeus finds the bride decapitated, he takes her body back to like I don't know
the Olympus, their main building. That was kind of like their base.
Yeah, so there was a hotel called the Olympus Hotel and Casino, which is now used as their kind of, like you said, their home base. Good. And he brings the body there with all the other zombies, both the kind of like straggler zombies who were just like slow and the alphas, and he opens her up and pulls out their baby. And you're going, oh no. So now not only is he heartbroken about losing his wife, but he had a baby on the way. So now it's like double down. So this movie, on top of just being kind of the action horror that we had seen, you know, in a lot of these other films, you're hitting home on emotional character points.
Yeah.
And not just from the good guy side of Bautista's group, but also the people like the bad guys. You're actually sympathizing with them in a way, and that's important. And you don't really see that in zombie movies. And if it's not done right, it can be really cheesy. But I think this worked well. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh man, it was incredible. It was like kind of like that meme where it's like the guy, it's, movie watcher, and it's someone comes in and just keeps slapping him. And that would be the plot twist. It's just
Constantly
they keep coming, and it just blows our mind every time.
Absolutely. And so this film also hits home like on the family unit, the importance of family. So you have Dave Bautista in this, really kind of having that connection with his daughter. And we find out in the film that Batista's wife had turned into a zombie and he had to kill her, and his daughter witnessed that. Yeah. And that was something that kind of put a strain on their relationship, especially because Bautista, in the months and years that followed, he was not really there for her. And they don't really tell us the time frame of when the zombie apocalypse started to the point of the main plot of the film, but I'm guessing it's got to be at least like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, because in that clip where it does show him killing his wife, like you can tell there's a difference from his daughter's age from then to the rest of the movie. So exactly.
Overall, I'm really digging it. I am not going to give a total explanation about what happens in every scene, of course, because we want you to check out this movie. And one other thing I'll double down with, we talked about the character points, we talked about the action, we talked about the great music and the set pieces and the cinematography and the special effects in regards to the action and the makeup, but also the kind of the social commentary in that. I've talked about it with you before. I love movies when you can watch a movie and there's more than just what's on the screen. Seeing Bautista and his crew kind of invading this camp and disrupting the way of life of these zombies who are really just living their life.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was a great reflection about, what you hear often on the news about, countries invading other countries, and those countries like don't want these other countries to invade them. They're like, just because you don't like our way of life doesn't mean we want you to come here and blow up everything and kill everybody here.
Yeah.
And, there's not always a right or wrong on some of these decisions. So I think this movie really finds a way to hit home on social commentary style issues, character beats and character situations, as well as action and humor and horror and gore and whatnot. This really kind of just... If you make a checklist about like what type of horror and action zombie film you'd want, this is really, for me, is like checking off every single box. Yeah. And I'm so happy that you were able to watch this as your first zombie flick, because it's topical, it's brand new, and it's not a cheesy film. It's really, really well done.
Yeah. If there's a hidden message in here, that could be like the last box.
Yeah.
Don't be greedy, okay? They go through all this, these people die brutally because they want money, and it's cheesy, but it's true. It's reality, It's that's the whole reason that they all die. So.
Sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Be happy with what you have, and don't try to take too much, right?
Exactly.
All right, so I think it's about time that we go into our ratings. I'll put up here the current scores for Rotten Tomatoes going into this movie. The Rotten Tomato critic score was at around 79%, I believe, and the critics score, the audience score rather, was around 74 or 75%. Because this movie just came out, it's constantly like going up or down a little bit. Yeah. So I'll put down the exact one right here. But for me, I'm pretty tough on zombie films because I love them. My favorite of all time, of course, is the original Dawn of the Dead. But I'm telling you, this is one of the best that I've seen, at least in the last 15 years, maybe even longer. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I might change this at some point. But the way I'm feeling right now, and we know sometimes when you just get out of a movie, you
get hype about it.
You get hyped about it. So take that into consideration. So maybe we're doing this on a curve. But for me, it's checking all those boxes. It knows what it wants to do. Great pacing, solid acting for what the film called for. I'm giving Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead 4.5 out of 5 stars.
You know what? I'm all in that. I'm gonna say the exact same for me. It was just the first zombie movie I've ever seen. I was fully entertained the whole time. It was just, I don't know, it's like almost at a loss for words trying to explain how I felt. It was
So you know what? I guess that's all we got to say about that, right, buddy? If you like this video, hit like. If you loved it, you can subscribe. You can also visit me on Instagram and Twitter at RankingsRS. But in the meantime, turn this video off. Go watch Army of the Dead on Netflix. So thanks for checking out the channel, and keep watching movies.